Hello. In today's video I want to have a look at some techniques I use to make these cards. So I've got this one here. This is foiled in rose gold and it's got lovely big foiled sentiment and some accent foiling here top and bottom on my back on my pattern paper. And then this one here, which is foiled in gold on this sort of pinky lilac paper. With a smaller sentiment and a bigger die cut. And then I'm going to make a third version. I was doing this and thinking about making a video, and then I'm thinking, well, okay, people might have some challenges to overcome, because for this one I had my paper hanging out the edge of my foiling platform, and that's fine for me because I've got a big wide die cutting machine. So my paper can stick out the side. I thought, what would you do if it couldn't? So I made this version, and I actually cut the strips, there's the top and bottom, off. Let me just move the camera slightly, that's better. So I cut the strips, the top and bottom, off, and then I've rejoined them, and rather than trying to hide the join, I've created a feature of it by adding this die cut strip in here. Okay, so that's one solution. And if you want to do something like that, now I had a look through my dies, and I've got some decorative strip dies. This is one of them, but it actually cuts at the ends and it isn't wide enough. It's not as wide as the card, it's just a little bit short. You see, so and really you want it longer so you can actually overhang your card and then trim your ends. So I had another look, and then I found I've got this one. Now this doesn't cut at the back edge at all, so you can cut a whole piece of card to mount your decorative strip on, and it's nice and long, so yeah, much longer than I would need. Oh, a little bit longer than I would need. But as I say, it doesn't actually cut off, it just cuts into your card, so it'd be easy to extend that one as well. So or you can just leave, you know, a line of contrasting card sticking out at the edge, just leave it straight. Or if you've got a die that cuts a wavy edge, or a decal cutting decal edge guillotine, something like that, you could use that to create a decorative edge. So that's one solution, to cut the strips and foil those. But I'm going to do a different version now. So what I want to do now, when I was using this hot foil stamp, now this is probably what you'd call a value hot foil stamp. It's not as thick as the big branded ones. And I got it on Amazon. It's not as thick, but it's pretty and it works. You just need an extra card shim or two. Okay, so and people always seem to wonder about how to cut up their sentiments. So, you know, don't be afraid to use your die sets. You know, the one I'm using today, this nice big oval set of dies, it's a Spellbinders die set. I think it's been around a long time. I've certainly had it a few years. So don't be afraid to go through your die sets and see what you can combine with your foiling. Okay, and then I've got some plain ovals that I've used to cut out my sentiment. Now I've already got my die cut, my sentiment ready today, so I'm going to be using this one. Okay, so which is this hot foil stamp, which is from Poppy Stamps, and that is it is a proper thick, good quality branded foil stamp, that one. But if you haven't got a foil stamp that's right, why not use a die cut sentiment? Let me just find one here. My box of bits I got ready. So I'm just going to turn this over. So, you know, why not use a die cut sentiment? Let's cut it out of some of your mirror card. Yeah, nothing says on a card refoiling everything has to be foiled. Yeah, you can mix and match. There are no rules. Okay, so what I'm going to do today, I've got another card base with my purple outer layer and my gold already, and my piece of pattern paper cut to size. Okay, but let me show you the problem that we need to overcome. Let me just move all of this out of the way. I'm going to put those behind me out of the way. Okay, because all I really need is my foil stamp. And my pattern paper. So I want to put my foiling along the top of my pattern paper. Okay, but my foil stamp isn't long enough. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in 2 halves so it comes into the middle. Okay, so I am going to need to make sure that I get that lined up correctly. So I'm going to turn, am I going to turn my paper over? No, I'm going to get some copy paper and cut it to the same size as this, and then use that to do my layout. Okay, so copy paper. All piece of card, it's entirely up to you. So my pattern paper is a 13.5 centimetre square. So I'm just going to always make sure you've cut things properly straight. I always double check. Trim that side. Okay, so I've got piece of paper. If my pattern paper was plain on the back, I could just use the back, but mine isn't, and I think it will get confusing. So I'm going to use a piece of copy paper. So I'm doing a square card, so obviously it doesn't matter which edge I use, but I do need to make sure I get that straight. So I'm going to use a ruler. And I'm going to kind of put my foil stamp. Well, first of all, I want to figure out where the middle is. So, so this ruler very helpfully has some centre lines. 6.5, about there, has a centre mark, which is really helpful. Or you can measure, or because this is copy paper, I could fold it in half to find the middle. Let's do it that way. That's the really simple way, isn't it? Just fold it in half, find the middle. Now I don't have to crease it all the way down, just enough to be able to mark my centre. Okay, and then I'm going to decide where I want my foil stamp. I'm going to turn my ruler around so I've got a nice thick edge. And then I'm going to line my foil stamp up and make sure it's straight, and make sure one end of it is over that centre mark. Make sure I'm going to draw a straight line, and I'm just going to give myself a guideline, so roughly where I want the bottom of it. And as I say, this is copy paper, so you know, if I decide I've done that wrong, I can rub it out. No, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to move it down a bit. That was a bit high. Let's give ourselves another guideline. So I'm going to put my hot foil stamp on there, and when I'm doing the other side I will be able to use my line that I've got here to help me. So to get that in the right place while I'm putting it on my foiling platform, I'm going to use a magnet. It's a stamp press magnet, and I've wrapped it up in a big piece of masking tape so it's got a handle on it I can get hold of. Well, there we are, that goes there. Get that positioned where I want it. And after I put the magnet on, I can adjust the position a bit if I want to. So it's like that. You see, it doesn't fall off now because the magnet's holding it. You see? Right. So let's bring my foiling platform over and see where this foil plate's going to go. Now, my piece of paper, my pattern paper, that's twisted. Let's get that back in place. If I just use this a minute because it's stiffer. Now, my pattern paper would fit. The trouble is I want my foiling right at the edge of it. And I want it to start in the middle. So I can't do, I could do, if I'd got a wide enough die cutting machine, I could do that and fold it that way. But what I'm actually going to do is turn it around this way. Make sure that hasn't twisted again. So I'm going to put this down, and I'm going to, now if I want to put it, so I don't want to put it right at the edge, because I never get good foiling if I put my foil stamp right at the edge. I don't know why, but my paper hangs out the edge, okay? And if I'm doing a slightly bigger piece, it's definitely going to hang out the edge. So that's not going to work. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to cut my piece of pattern paper in half. So I'm going to need to do that with my copy paper. And then we'll hide where the two halves meet with some flowers. Yeah? So let me take this back off. Okay, so now I'm going to go in half the other way. Okay, I'm going to fold it in half the other way, and then I can cut it in half. But before I do that, in fact, I'm going to do it so I can see my line. If you can see that. Yeah, so I can see my line. Before I do that, I'm going to use it as a guide to cut my pattern paper in half, because they are the same size, and that will help me get my paper cut exactly in the middle. So, I'm going to get my paper trimmer, or in fact I'm using a guillotine, but you can use a paper trimmer, and I'm going to put my pattern paper in, and I'm going to slide it over, and I'm going to line my piece of paper up with the edge. In fact, I can use the fold, make sure I come in straight. Yeah. And I can use that to line up with the blade. To get that completely in half. I don't know what's going on there because this is now wonky. That's better. Okay. So I'm at 13.5. Which would be, let me do a sense check, 6.5 plus 2.5, ought to be there anyway. So, but I can use my piece of paper to make sure I actually am in the right place. And you can do it either way. So if I want to, I can put my piece of paper that side and feed in that way. That might be easier to see actually. Yeah. Okay. There So now I've got my pattern paper in 2 halves. Now, depending on your pattern, you might want, before you mix them up, to just mark on the back which bits go together. I don't need to on this because there's a design on the back, so it'll be obvious which way they go. But you might want to just turn it over and just maybe put some arrows pointing together or something, so you know where to line them up. So if you've got a wide die cutting machine like me, you don't need to worry about this, but lots and lots of people haven't, so I wanted a solution for them. Okay, now that hasn't cut in the middle. I don't know why that hasn't cut in the middle. That is very strange, but that obviously isn't in the middle and it's out by quite a long way, and this won't work if that is, so I must have cut this wrong. I'm going to do that again. So 13.5, nearly, or just over. I like to make sure I cut on all sides. Make sure that's square, and it's not. That is 13.5. Yeah.
Light one.
And then 13.5.
Light one.
And I'm going to need another piece of my pattern paper. And I need to trim this, I need to trim that down. Don't think that cut straight. Okay, let's check before I start that they're both the same size. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so they're definitely both the same size. It doesn't matter which way round. So, I need to find the middle in both directions on my square. I'm going to fold it in half, and then I'm going to fold it in half the other way. So now I've got the centre on both sides. So I can figure out where my foil stamp's going to go. Give myself a line. That I want to line it up with. Okay, and then I also need to cut this in half. So I'm going to fold that in there. But let me double check. I'll put this over on the back. I'm going to draw a line there. I'm just going to move this around the other side and make sure, yeah, it meets my pencil line. So it is all right, it's the right size. I'm going to move this down a bit so it doesn't, I make sure it doesn't make my my cut wonky. Just line that up with the blade. Make sure I'm straight. And now I've got two pieces the same, which is what I need to have. Okay, I'm going to move the other bits away so I don't get them muddled up. And then we can get the foil stamp put in place. Okay, now I do want to actually have this in half, so let's fold it so I can see my line. And I'm just going to use a bit of a tape runner just to keep the two halves folded up. Because I think if it flaps around while I'm trying to put my foil stamp on, that's going to cause a problem. So, and I can see where the middle is. I'm just going to come a little bit over the middle. I'm going to line the bottom up there. And I'm going to put my magnet on the back. Okay, so we're back to that stage. So I want to be able to put this comfortably on my Go Press and Foil. I'm going to line it up there. Plenty of room. I've got a little pencil line here that I'm going to line this edge up with, and I can put another one where that edge is to help me. Okay, so I'm going to slide the magnet off. Okay, I'm holding the foil stamp down at that point so it doesn't move. I can take this away. I'm just going to make sure that is straight. And then I can put one of my pieces of paper on. Now that's going to meet there. So that's the bottom. So I'm going to put that piece on there and I'm going to tape it in place. Okay, so it's up against the surround of the hot foil plate, which, you know, it might get a little bit warm, but it doesn't really get hot, so you can tape things to it. Okay, and I'm going to flip that out the way, and I'm going to put this on the base to warm up. Now you might want to leave yours on the base while you're doing that, okay, but it works better for the camera if I bring it over here in front of me. So my hot foil stamp needs to warm up. And I need to do that piece of paper next. I've already cut some foil. I've already got my die cut here, and in fact while I'm waiting for that to warm up I'm going to stick these together. So this was foiled onto, now I've got my mats and layers here, so I always say get all the bits ready and do all your foiling, and don't stick anything down until you've done all your foiling. And the reason for that is because when I was making one of the earlier versions of the card, I thought, well, I could use that bit in the middle to foil the sentiment. So you don't use a whole piece to mat and layer, unless, you know, if you can if you want to, but what I tend to do is foil and cut out from the middle before I stick that layer down. Okay, so but I had one that I'd already done from one of the earlier ones, so I've got that ready to stick down. So I've stuck those two together and it'll go on some foam pads eventually. Okay, so I'm going to leave that to dry. And in the meantime, my hot foil stamp has been heating up. I'm going to turn the camera because I don't want to pull this up. So you see I've got my nice wide Big Shot Plus here. Camera just a little bit. There we are. And round just a bit more, I think. There we are. Okay, so now I can put my foil on, and doesn't matter if it's not the full length of the foil stamp, it just needs to go to the end, past the end of the paper. So now my paper goes down and it's in the right place because I taped it so it couldn't move. I'm going to need some shims. Now these particular foil stamps are a bit on the thin side, so I'm going to use, now that's 2, 3. I'm going to try 4, okay, and see how well that works. Because the beautiful thing is, because I've got that tape down, if it doesn't foil perfectly first time, I can flip it back down and add another shim. So that was actually, yes, 4 layers. So I can just hinge this up, have a look at the foiling. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Now I'm not going to move the hot foil stamp. I'm going to do the other piece of card first, but I want my piece of tape, so I am very carefully peeling my tape. Put the other piece of paper, make sure I've got that right. That's the top. I don't want to find I've foiled the middle of the card, or the pattern paper. Another piece of foil. That's, yeah, that is half the job done. Now I move the foil stamp. So I'm going to take the foil stamp off and let it cool down. Okay, so now you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to very carefully. Now, I find it best to peel the tape rather than from the cut edge, from the surface towards the cut edge, and that's least likely to tear your card. Okay, so I've got half my foiling done. So when I put these back together, if I turn this round to the camera and tilt it so you can see. So I've got half the foiling at the top and half the foiling at the bottom. So now I need to do the other half of the foiling. Okay, so I need my piece of paper again, but this time I'm doing the other side. So I'm going to put my foil stamp. Let me get these lined up. So my foil stamp was that way round, okay, with the curl at the bottom. So I want to do the same but on the other half. So I'm going to line it up, and what you might want to do at this stage is line it up. You could try doing it by eye, but I always find I get it wonky. So yeah, let's do it like that. So I was lining up with that line at the bottom and just overlapping very slightly. And the reason for the overlap is because, I don't know if you can see, if I zoom in. Yeah, so that the edge that's going to foil here, the metal sticks out a little bit further. So I need to allow for that, because I really would like those just about to touch. Okay, so get my magnet again, which actually sticks to the front of my toolbox I've got behind me, so it's always easy to grab. So I'm just satisfying myself that I've got that level. Yeah, which is why we needed the guideline. If I move this along, that's what I need to do, move it along. So yes, if I line those up, I can actually see that that lines up really nicely with my foil stamp. Okay, so I've got that. So now I need to put that onto the foiling platform again. So I'm going to turn this round, because when I'm working, I don't keep pulling this off. I leave it where it is. So having got this straight, I'm happy with it. Okay, so now I'm going to put this the other side of the foiling platform, but I can use the same marks that I made because the paper is exactly the same width. So that goes down there. And then I need to slide my fingers under the edge of my tape there to hold the foil plate still while I slide the magnet off. Take that up and then make sure I get my paper the right way round. So I need to make sure that I'm going to be foiling there. Okay, so this bit with the foil that's already on it needs to be where I'm taping it down. I've taped it down and I'm just going to do a sense check. So I've got foil there that's going to be continued by the foil plate. Now, I don't think I've got that straight. Right, I'm going to lift it up again. I'm absolutely certain. That's straight. Okay, so put some foil on. And actually, I'm going to leave. It's a thin foil stamp. It doesn't take very long to heat up, but so we'll try it. No, it's going to heat. And I've got another piece of foil somewhere there. Flip it back and check the foiling. Yep, that's fine. So I shall take that off, peel my tape, and then get the other piece. So this saves time because you're not reheating your foil stamp every time you want the foil. I only had to heat it twice. Just waiting for the Go Crescent foil to come back to its right temperature. There's the foiling we've done so far. So it may have seemed like a lot of preparation, but it then makes the foiling bit quite quick. Yeah, that's fine. So that's the foiling done. Let me angle the camera down a bit. See if I can get it to focus on that properly. There. So we've got that foiled border. So what I'm going to do now is turn my paper, get my borders one each side, turn my paper over, match up my pieces. And here's a piece of masking tape. And I'm going to stick them together. Now when I turn them back, you can hardly see the join, okay? But let's put the card together and you'll see what I mean when we've hidden it. So I've already put double-sided tape on the backs of my pieces. So I can put this together quite quickly. I do like to put just a little bit of glue in the middle. So I've just released the edges of my the corners of my double-sided tape. Because the white is part of the design of my card. That's why I've die cut my decorative frame in white. And I can do this really quickly when I'm not filming. Okay, now I just need to put some double-sided tape on the back of this piece. I particularly use double-sided tape when I'm sticking down onto mirror card because glue can come unstuck because it can't be absorbed into the mirror card because it's got a plastic coating on the top. So you need something that's going to stick anyway. You can, I think, glue to it, but you need glues with more acrylic in them. And they tend to be sort of thicker and gloopier. So I just find double-sided tape easiest. So that's going to go onto there. what I tend to do, so at the middle of my cards can't lift, get glue with my tape runner, or you could use some bits of double-sided tape and peel them off, and then some wet glue on top of that, so I don't stick to it too quickly. That's it. So once it's straight, I can stick my corners down and just pull the tape out. Okay, so the join at this point is almost invisible. I'm going to zoom the camera right in so you can have a look. So you can just about see there's a join there. Okay, but it's not very obvious. And by the time I've got some flowers on here, you're really not going to be able to find it. So, to finish off the card, I've got my sentiment. That goes on first. I'm going to put it on some foam pads. Okay, so that's going to go in the middle. If you have trouble peeling the backing off your foam pads without, and when you try, the pad tries to peel off your card, just push it down harder onto the card so that the glue grabs more. So make sure at this stage you've got your card the right way up, and then I'm going to put that in the middle. Okay, and then I've got some flowers and leaves that I foiled earlier. Leaves and leaves. And it doesn't matter what flowers and foliage you use, whatever you've got in your stash. So, let me see, so there or there. So these leaves handily are in pairs. So I could just put one flower each side. No. Perhaps I'll come round more like that. Yeah, you can spend ages figuring out where to put your leaves and things on cards. I think I might do it like that. on there. I could move the leaves further, a little bit further out if I want to, or even have them round. Yeah, like that. Okay, so let's stick these down. Get some thicker glue for the flowers. So I'm just going to stick my leaves down first. Just going to dot some glue on the back. In a few places. I'm going to tuck it in and leave it overhanging there. I think I've managed to miss putting some glue on that leaf, so I'm going to grab just a little bit of this paper I've trimmed off, stick a blob of glue on the end, just stick it under there and dab the leaves into it. Do the same on the other side. These leaves are done with a John Next Door die set, Leafy Sprigs, and the flowers are his Mallow Flower die. And I haven't done a video about how to get the leaves foiled, but he did one that was holly last year, and it works in exactly the same way, so you might want to have a look if you're interested in how I did those. Didn't want that to happen. I'm getting glue everywhere. So I've got the big one there. So I've got glue everywhere. And that's a very tacky glue, I particularly use for sticking flowers down. Right, so having added my flowers and my foliage, the join in the backing paper is now completely hidden. Okay, so there's a solution to the problem. So if you've got a wide die cutting machine, it's not an issue, leave the paper sticking outside, but that's one way around it. If not, okay, so there we are. Thank you for your patience in watching. It's been a much longer video than I thought it was going to be, but hopefully you'll have learned something from it. Thanks for watching.